in response to all these why me's, why not you?
Yeah.
Bad things happen to people all the time. What makes you so special? You have to move on beyond that. And if you, this family is moving on, I had three girls who were all teens at this time. They were moving on with their lives. My oldest one was now in college, and you have a choice. You can either be that father and husband you were, or not. But our lives are progressing, and we can't stand still indefinitely. And that was the tough love I needed to hear.
I am so excited today to have a very special guest and a dear friend, Ron Gold, with us today. Ron, welcome to the podcast. Please introduce yourself to my audience.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ron Gold, and I am honored and pleased to finally make it on to Chitra's podcast.
Yes, we've been talking about it for a while and it's finally happening. So, yeah, tell everybody a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I had a career. I was very driven professionally. I had a career on Wall Street. I had always wanted to work on Wall Street out of college. It just fascinated me. The dynamic nature of the markets, and every day would be something else. I ended up veering towards Asian equities, which is sort of an odd thing. People don't really think about that in terms of Wall Street, but that was my specialty. I would sell Asian equities, Asian stocks into US based institutions. So if
Mm.
you had a mutual fund or some kind of fund, a tech fund maybe, and I would be the guy who would speak to that fund manager about comparing Sony to Taiwan Semi to Samsung, or comparing investing in Japan versus investing in Hong Kong or China. So it was exciting. I got to immerse myself in different cultures. I loved going out to the region. I loved getting to know my colleagues who came from all over the world and were based in Asia. So I did that for about 20, 25 years.
Wow, that's amazing. So, you were a tech in the tech world dealing with international finances, but something changed in your life. Something drastic happened. And that literally changed the course of your life. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. And while all this was going on professionally, sports and fitness and pushing myself athletically was always a big part of my life. Uh,
Wow,
Actually, in my 20s, I was an avid rock climber, and I would
really?
go every weekend. I'd go up to the Gunks and near New Paltz and push myself rock climbing until actually one day I had a 50-foot rock climbing fall, and I broke my shoulder, ribs, and vertebrae, and came to a few minutes later, dangling from a rope.
No.
But yeah, and I
Oh my
had
gosh.
My belayer, who I actually had just met that morning. We'd go up and we pair up and find someone to be your partner. I found him, so I had never met him before, and to this day, I have no idea who he is, even what his name is. But he did what he was supposed to. I fell. He pulled the rope in. He stopped my fall, and he saved my life.
Wow. Wow. Man,
And
that's
that
a
was
close
just sort
call.
of, yes, it was
Wow.
my
Okay.
first near death experience.
That's
And
unbelievable.
that was my mindset. That's your area. That was my mindset. Was
Yeah.
always, on one hand, was professionally push myself, and on the other hand was athletically. I ice climbed, I rock climbed, I bicycled, I skied aggressively. I was a tremendous skier.
Wow. So
And
you
then
like pushing the boundaries.
I do.
Yeah. And
And
seeing,
and I
yeah.
think I would have done more. I know I would have done more of that if I hadn't had this horrible accident 14 years ago. I
So
was
wait, tell me something. When you had that fall from the climbing incident, did you go back to climbing or did you give it up?
I did, but not as aggressively as I did because I sort of lost touch with some of the people I've been climbing with, and my life sort of moved in a different direction. And then I had kids, and well,
Yeah.
you
But
start
you've
thinking about
always
things a
had this.
little bit differently.
Yeah. So, but before all of this that you're going to talk about, I want to emphasize that you already had this kind of warrior mindset going in,
I did.
right? You were this person who liked to challenge yourself, who liked to find out what happens when you can beat the odds and do things that are either scary or hard or complicated. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Some of the things that I was looking forward to doing, maybe a little bit in an empty nest stage of my life was to trek in the Himalayas or
Mhm.
climb 14,000-foot peaks in the Colorado Rockies and things like that, or just hiking to Machu Picchu.
Wow. So tell me, where did this mindset come from? Because, clearly you had it and you were using it to its best ability, where you were challenging yourself and learning more and more about yourself through the process. Where did that come from? Were you born that way, you think? Or,
I think I was born with it somewhat, but it had to have been nurtured somewhere along the way. I think I was strong physically in terms of hiking and climbing. My I don't have great hand-eye coordination, so ball sports generally weren't as naturally uh, I wasn't
drawing you
I
in?
wasn't
Yeah.
receptive to it. It didn't naturally appeal to me, even though I enjoy doing it. But these are the kinds of things that were just they pushed me. I got a lot of joy out of it. I remember my dad would talk about famous mountaineers, Mallory, who is the first well-known guy to attempt to climb Everest. He made the famous quote, "Why did you climb it? Because it's there." And
Uh-huh.
I think that sort of mindset appealed to me. I mean, the idea that no other reason than that it's there and let's do
Yeah.
it. And I
That's
guess that,
amazing.
and then I would read a lot of stuff about mountaineers and rock climbers and what they did. And actually, when I was rock climbing in the Gunks, I ended up taking a few lessons from Lynn Hill,
Mm.
who at the time and for many years was one of the top female rock climbers in the world. And
Wow.
she was poetry in motion when she was so effortless, so
Wow.
graceful when she was climbing. It was so exciting to watch her climb
Yeah.
and to learn from her.
Yeah. What do you think it is about these accomplishments? Because, I've had a phase in my life where I, went from jumping on a 12-inch box to then jumping on a 30-inch box over a period of year and a half. And there's something about that sense of accomplishment that just changes you. Would you agree? Was it
I,
like that for you?
it was. And when I did these sports, it was never about competing with partners. It was
Right.
always it was mostly sometimes it was as a team when you're climbing, it's obviously as a team, but it was very individual. When I was bicycling with friends, it was never, it was just pushing myself to be as fast and as strong as I could and to take the hills the best I could. And yes, I wanted to keep up with the next guy in front of me, but if they were stronger, they were stronger. I just chalked it up to the fact that they worked out harder and longer than I did, and I was commuting to the city every day, and I didn't have the opportunity to do as much. So that was fine. I just, whatever I could do to push my limits. And, I did triathlons, and I was never going to be competitive to finish in the top. I knew that. It was about me and what I could achieve.
Yeah, it's a personal sense of accomplishment. I felt that too when I was, beating the odds every single time. It was like, I did that. I did that. And it made my belief in myself that much stronger. So I can totally see that. And just talking to you about it makes me want to go back and, do more. So that's exciting. But all right, awesome. So tell us a little bit about what happened, 14 years ago that changed everything.
So I've hinted about the bicycling. I was an avid cyclist. That was one of the things I really enjoyed. I'd go out on a weekend morning with a group of friends, and we'd get in a pace line, a bunch of us, and we'd talk for a while, and then we'd get lost in our own thoughts, and we'd go generally about 50 or 60 miles from our homes in northern New Jersey, usually up to lower New York State. And on this day, it was Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend, 2011. I was riding with a group of friends. It was it was actually unseasonably warm, or well, what we thought was unseasonably warm back then, maybe not so much anymore. And anyway, we had ridden about 50 miles. We were almost home, and all of a sudden, I'm in a pace line. My eyes are locked on my buddy Zach's rear wheel. All of a sudden, he yells. I look up, and then there's an SUV coming right at us, and I'm thinking it's going to swerve back to its lane. I mean, you think about like late at
Yeah.
night when you sort of drift off for a second and you overcompensate and go back into your lane. but it didn't do that. And I was locked in. I had a guardrail on my right, and I had no choice. And it just went right into me.
Oh my
And it went to
gosh.
Zach first, then me, and that's the last thing I remember. They a helicopter soon landed in the field at Saddle River Day School and helicoptered me, medevaced me to Hackensack. And I was in an induced coma, and I woke up several weeks later,
Wow.
only to learn that I was paralyzed and I had very nearly died. It was really touch and go for quite a while, and
Oh my gosh.
they didn't think I'd survive, but here I am.
Wow. Wow. That's unbelievable, right? I mean, every time I hear your story, it gives me the chills. Were you aware of what was happening as it was happening, or did you lose consciousness right away as soon as you got hit?
I always thought that I might get clipped from behind, but I never thought somebody would go into me head on.
Mm,
It's much different if I'm going 20 miles per hour and somebody 40 behind me. Not that that's good, but when
right.
you're going 20 and someone's going 40 at you, then it becomes a much bigger collision. They
Yeah,
said I started screaming at her all kinds of expletives, but I don't remember any of that.
really.
And
Wow.
so
Wow. So you were in the hospital in a coma for weeks. And when you hear that devastating news that you are now paralyzed, what goes through your mind?
this is a bad dream. No, this can't be. I couldn't speak because I had been intubated.
Oh,
So I couldn't speak, and everything was confusing. I was in this sort of post-fentanyl fog,
mm,
and everyone was telling me different things, and I was like, how did I get here?
yeah.
Uh, this can't
Did you
be.
remember the accident when you woke
Yeah,
up? You
yeah.
did. Okay. So you
I
knew
remember it
that
clearly,
yeah.
but I don't remember anything afterwards when people said I was
Mm,
screaming. I don't remember being in the helicopter or any of that.
wow. And so you're just like in denial, right? You're like, this can't be happening.
Yeah, I was in denial. I was confused for a lot of the time that I was in the hospital. Um, I was just my wife Betsy was there and she trying to keep me focused day by day, doing the things to get better,
Yeah. Is
such that
that,
it is.
yeah.
But when I got to rehab, after the hospital, I went to rehab at Kessler in West Orange for 3 months. And I remember each night I would cry myself to sleep, hoping it was all a bad dream. And I would wake up in the morning and everything would go back to the way it was. That
Yeah.
doesn't work that way, does it?
It doesn't, no. And it almost feels like that's where like it's that identity death, right? Because you have this identity that I am a professional, I'm in Wall Street, I am doing international business, I'm doing all this athletic stuff. And suddenly all of that just came crashing down in a way that you could never have expected, right? What did you learn about yourself like in that darkness?
Well, I wish I could say that I learned that I was strong and the exemplar of fortitude right from the start. And I said, I'll push through this. But in reality, that's not what happened at all. I had a really hard time. I mean, I came home after 5 months and I came into my house and everything looked the same, except the study was now a bedroom, my bedroom. I was never able to go upstairs again in my own home. And I was like, how the hell did I get to be like this? Uh, and so dependent on everyone else. And I
Mm.
had a long time of these sort of why me's. Why did this happen to me? My
Yeah,
dad was an actuary, so everything I'm all about probabilities and statistics, and this wasn't supposed to happen. This is a 1 in a million or whatever the odds are.
yeah,
That doesn't happen. But that 1 in a million shit happened to me.
yeah. Were you angry?
And yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Yeah, I would think I would be so mad at the whole world, right? I mean,
It's not fair.
yeah,
And it isn't fair.
it isn't
Life
fair.
isn't fair. No one promised you it would be fair.
Yeah,
That was sort of what came later for me
yeah,
to zero in on that because
yeah,
we
yeah,
all have stuff. my stuff's a lot worse than most,
Yeah,
but we all have stuff. And I
we all
think
have
over
stuff.
time, that was what I started focusing on. Initially, I couldn't think that way at all.
Yeah,
I was thinking about this woman who hit me,
yeah.
who never said a word to me, never apologized, nothing.
Wow. Yeah.
How does that
I mean,
happen?
yeah. I mean, having worked with people who have been through so much in their lives, my thought goes to maybe she's just so ashamed and so hurt and so kind of in shock with what she did also. Like, everyone processes things differently, and the only compassionate way that I can look at that would be like, maybe she doesn't know what to say, like maybe there are no words, right? But of course, when you're in that phase dealing with that and being the recipient of that and angry, like, and your world has changed so much and they're just moving on about their life, it can piss you off, right? It's legit anger, it's valid, and you're justified in feeling that. So this happened 14 years ago, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and how long did it take you to, let's say, kind of get to that state of acceptance of, okay, this is my life now? Like, because that warrior state of mind that you were in before that was gone, right? I assume, like I say, it's like the witch and the warrior in our heads. I assume that witch had taken over permanently for a while. Like,
Yeah.
what was
I'd
that
say a
journey like?
year or two. Uh, and I have to give a lot of credit to my wife Betsy. I mean, I at some point she'd been incredibly patient with me, and finally she said, in response to all these why me's, why not you?
Yeah.
Bad things happen to people all the time. You know, what makes you so special? You have to move on beyond that. And if this family is moving on. I had three girls who were all teens at this time. They were moving on with their lives. My oldest one was now in college, and you have a choice. You can either be that father and husband you were, or not. But we'll be here for you. But our lives are progressing, and we can't stand still indefinitely. And that was the tough love I needed to hear.
Yeah, sometimes we need that, right? It's like that, and all, I feel like everyone goes through this where something bad happens, we throw ourselves this gigantic pity party and we just want to live in that, right? We want to live in that energy. And I can think of some times in my life where I've done that, but for much smaller things than what you went through. So I think when I think of what you went through and how it changed your life, I think you're completely justified in throwing yourself a nice long pity party. But I'm so glad that you were able to get that tough love from your wife and be able to break free. Was that a moment where you were like, okay, I got to do something different? Like, what changed in there? Did you hear that little warrior start to stir again?
Yeah, in retrospect, yes, that is what happened. That little warrior did start to percolate
Yeah.
again. And I didn't know where it would lead. And like I said, I had in my mind, I had all these things. I'd love traveling for business. I was looking forward to traveling personally as we got more time and more travel with my wife and my family and doing some of these adventure trips that I was looking forward to doing. So they're now out, and I was never really a guy who was just looking forward to traveling to see Paris or to see Athens or someplace like that. I really wanted to travel in a different way. And since much of that is out, I had to find things that I could still do. And one of the things that I had needed some significant care when I first came home, and that's when I was exposed to home care for the first time, personally, as opposed to just helping my parents. And I was frustrated with the options that were out there for people. And Betsy and I had this idea that nor when older parents need help, there's sort of two options for people to find care in our area. One is to go through a home care agency, and you give up control, and it's also the most expensive way. Or you can find care on your own, but you have no way to vet that person.
Right.
And if they can't make it, you can be stuck. And we were wondering, why are there only two options? Why can't people have a third option? And this was right around the time all these marketplace companies were coming online, and we thought, why can't we create a network and match families looking for care with caregivers that they hire on your own. And by doing it that way, it would be less expensive for the family. The caregiver could earn more money. People could choose the caregiver who's the right fit,
Mm,
and we would be helping people. And
that's
that's what we've done. That we called the company Lean On We, and we've helped about over 2,000 families find better, more affordable care throughout the greater New York area. And
wow.
that's been a labor of love and very rewarding to have helped so many people find another option. It's not the right option for everyone, but
Yeah.
people need choice.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, I always say something great always comes out of every tragedy if you allow yourself to heal through it. And it looks like Lean On We is something that was born out of yours. Would you agree? Yeah. And you're
I would
helping
agree.
so many people. Yeah.
I would agree.
That's beautiful.
It
That's
has.
beautiful. So, you're starting to now find ways to do things for yourself or find a way to live life with this disability which is debilitating. What are some of the first things that go through your mind as you're starting to find a way back to some sort of normalcy?
Well, I think afterwards, I started, over time, I started doing things more in public. And I did some speaking. I did a TEDx about my story. I did some writing. And people said when I speak and when I write, it resonates with them. They find it empowering. They find it inspiring. And I have to say, honestly, at first I thought, I don't know what's so inspiring about this. I'm just trying to lead my life the best way I can with what I have left and what I can do. And but I realized that when I do things, people say, "Hey, if this guy can keep staying motivated, staying on course, keep moving ahead powerfully, then what am I making excuses for? And why can't I keep going?" And I started reaching into that, and I found strength from that. So I started speaking more. One of my old clients from my Wall Street days was the president of a school, a university, and he asked me to deliver a commencement address. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I was like, oh, that's going to be a lot of work. I don't really want to do that. Then I said, no, if I don't do it, I'm really going to regret it later. And I said, fine. And he flew me and my family out to his school, and it was an incredible moment to be able to do something like that. And I realized that as much as there are so many things I can no longer do, there are other things that I can do. And getting in touch with people through writing and through speaking is one of those things where I have now have a platform to to convey my message, and I want to reach into that, and I want to try to see where that will take me, and that's where you and I met through
Yeah.
the National Speaking Association. And I've now, as I just told you when I got on the call, I've just written a manuscript for a book that I hope to get published in the next few months. And I have actually even other ideas for other books that I'd like to write in the future. And I've gotten back into sports, not in the way that I used to. I certainly can't do those sorts of things, but within my limits, what I can do, I've been doing. And I started rowing.
Mm,
And I rode in the head of the Schuylkill in Philadelphia, the head of the Charles in Boston. And just this past weekend, I had a race on the Passaic River in New Jersey, which was
wow.
just great to be out there pushing myself in a 4,800-meter race, which is not nothing.
No, my
About
gosh.
3 miles. So that was super.
That's
And
amazing.
the other thing, other sport is hand cycling. I've started doing, and I I've ridden in the Hartford and the New York City marathons, and I'll be riding in New York City in a couple weeks.
This is unbelievable. I mean, it just lights my heart up with joy when I hear you say all of the things you're doing now. Um, Fantastic, right? I mean, it's got to feel amazing to be out there again, even if you're not in that same capacity as you were before. So, what I want to talk about a little bit is the mindset shift, right? Because obviously, you went from doing all of these things in a normal abled person's body to suddenly having this crash where you're like, everything is down the dumps now. And then you found your way out of that. So, let's talk a little bit about what success meant to you before the accident, what it meant maybe during that tough time, and then as you come out of it now, what does success mean to you? So let's start at the beginning. What was it before the accident? How did you define success?
I define success in doing things. I'd
Mm.
liked to be I didn't like to be at home all day. I didn't like being in an office all day. And for that reason my career worked well for me because there was a lot of travel and I enjoyed the travel. It was both domestic and foreign out to Asia. And I'd be traveling to Boston basically every other week to see clients, and I'd travel elsewhere, and I enjoyed it. I got up really, I'd be on a 5:30 shuttle out of LaGuardia, but it was exciting, to go places, go to Hong Kong, go to Singapore, and uh, and I tried to balance it best I could by doing these sports, by doing these triathlons, by pushing myself athletically whenever I could. That was my mindset to keep doing more things. And I loved skiing and I loved being in the outdoors, and I was looking forward to the opportunity to spend more time in places like Colorado, both in the summer and the winter, to really take in all those sorts of experiences. So I don't know. I mean, in a mindset perspective, maybe Carol Dweck talks about a growth and a fixed mindset. So I had a growth mindset, and then after the accident, I'd say it was fixed because my perspective was I can't do things anymore.
Yeah.
Everything is out the window. My career's gone. My activities that I loved pushing myself with are gone, and I'm stuck in this chair. It was in that same easy chair as if I've been glued to it.
Yeah.
And the start of moving beyond that was when Betsy gave me that tough love. And over time, I started sort of that mindset grew incrementally in small iterative ways, but it gradually pushed out where, yeah, I can't do many of the things I used to do, but there are still things I can do. And this is the life I have. And you used the term before, accept it. I don't know that I ever accept it. I don't
Mm.
accept my limitations, but I've owned it.
Mm.
This
Yeah.
is,
This is who you
it's
are.
somewhere in between, right?
Yeah. And it's a journey, right? It's a journey. It takes time to, go through something like that. And it takes a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings and a lot of thoughts and a lot of anger and the grief of losing the life you had, I'm sure, is also a big part of it, right? So it sounds to me almost as an outsider listening to your story is that you had this amazing mindset before where you wanted to grow and in any way that you could possibly grow, right? And you wanted growth all the time. It was like that was your North Star. Like, how can I grow to be the best version of myself, the strongest version, the fastest, whatever, like whatever challenges you were accepting for yourself, right? Whether it was professionally or in your athletic realm. And then you have this setback and you're kind of in this stuck mode where it's like nothing's moving. I physically can't get up and just walk anymore. So now you're trying to figure this whole mindset out. But as you come out of it, I wonder if you see what I see in you, which is now you went from a life of your growth to now you're impacting the world. You're impacting and inspiring other people to grow as well. And I don't know if that's what you were doing naturally even then, and it just kind of expanded now, or if that's a newer version of you. What do you think?
I think it's a little bit of what it was then, but a much different dimension now.
Yeah.
Because what I'm going through is very visible to people. I mean, there's no hiding it, right?
Yeah.
And, a lot of people, they just get stuck
Mm.
mentally, physically, just inertia. just stops. And this guy, he's still rolling around.
Yeah. He's still doing hand cycling if he can't do the foot cycling. Like he's doing rowing with his hands if he can't use his feet. Like this is incredibly inspiring to anyone listening, right? I'm sure you still have bad days, right? I'm sure you have days that, because I say this even for myself as a mindset coach or an intuition coach, I still have days where I can't get into that mindset, right? But what I have developed is tools to get out of it, right? So I'm sure, or let me not assume, let me ask you, do you have tools that help you get out of it even now? And what are some of those tools if you're having a bad day?
Yeah, well, I certainly have been. I have a lot of health issues that I'm dealing with, and yeah, I don't share them that much. I share them, some of them. I just don't feel it's not that I am very open. That I was fairly open about myself before, but much more so now. I mean, after everything I've been through, all the prodding, probing, injuries, illnesses, I don't care. But sometimes there's too much information, so you have to keep it.
Sure.
How do I? What are my tools? I lean in to what gives me satisfaction. Just as you have your what is it, big, your pillars, your framework. I
The
have
peel,
mine.
feel, heal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Peel, feel, heal. Yeah.
Yep. Mine is my new gold standard, and it's a play off my name, obviously, but it's also a play off the fact that the gold standard is it was the monetary system in the financial world, and that's where I came from. And my thinking is this, at one point the gold standard was the way of the world. The world did well, prospered, stable, and then it had to go away because it couldn't adapt and monetary system had to go in a different direction. Likewise, me, my life was good, my old gold standard. And then an exogenous shock and it fell apart and I had to adapt. And I lean into my five components, which are resilience, reimagination, purpose, relationships, and growth.
Mm.
And relationships, for one, have been huge. They were always a big part of my life. And people were there for me in ways big and small after my accident, and they knew what I was going through, and that strength helped me a lot, that support, and I I just I think about my problems as sort of puzzles to
Mm.
just work through bit by bit and just a challenge like those puzzles my dad would give me in the car to keep us occupied and to keep me engaged and my siblings engaged. And maybe it sounds a little trite and maybe it doesn't really work, but it's a way that helps me because when I go down those rabbit holes, it just becomes really trying.
Yeah.
And there are so many that I can go down, but nothing good really comes of it. So I do my best not to go through that.
Yeah. Do you it sounds like what you're saying is almost like focusing on the now. Like what are the puzzle pieces that I need to fit together right now? And then you go to the next level. And then there it's like a new puzzle. And then it's like, okay, let me put this together. And then finding your way out that way. Do you also find yourself leaning into the accomplishments that you've had now? And the times that you have gotten out, does that give you hope? Because I'm always curious to see what makes that switch for people because it's different for everybody. Like I know what works for me is when I see someone else in a much more dire state than me, I'm like immediately, what the hell do I have to complain about, right? And it just snaps me out of my, woe is me, pity party kind of stage. But I have friends or even my husband, they have different things that work for them. So I'm trying to understand what it is for you, because you've had a lot of accomplishments before and even now. But when you find yourself slipping down, what is the number one thing that you use to come back up?
I think it's the here and now, and it's working on my new accomplishments. And writing this book,
Yeah.
that's an accomplishment. And but it's not okay. I've achieved that. Well, I haven't published it, but I have a manuscript. But then what am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
It's not it's there's always another step. And how am I going to work with that book to meet new goals, new
Yeah.
objectives? Expand my reach, expand my brand. How am I going to get people to read that? And how is that going to expand my platform to be a speaker and a writer and whatever else is going to come my way? Because I have a unique voice and a unique perspective.
And you have a
And
purpose now, a new
yeah,
purpose, right? With
purpose is a big part of it. And it's funny because I did all these things previously, with the career, with my personal accomplishments. I never really thought much about purpose. And I thought it was all a little, I don't know,
foo foo fluff
woo
out
woo
there.
maybe, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not. Purpose really does engage you. It
Yeah.
motivates you.
Yeah. It keeps you going, right? It keeps
Yeah.
you, in that optimism and hope that there's more in spite of where I am. So let me ask you this. I love that you shared the new gold standard and the pillars because I think that is so helpful. And I'm sure when people hear you talk, they will hear more about this from you. But if for the average person, the average man, go walking around in this world trying to achieve success as defined by society or as, you know, at a superficial level where they think this is what success means, what advice would you give to somebody who is just living their life in their day to day for themselves? Maybe doing some community work, but not really driven by this purpose that you're talking about. Is there something that you wish you had done differently back then when you had more, or and what would you tell others who are in that boat? So two questions.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things I would have told my younger self, my fully abled self that I could have done. Because I think about if I've been able to achieve all what I've achieved thus far as a guy in a wheelchair, what I could have done if I had had that same mindset earlier. I mean, I had a good mindset, a strong
Right.
mindset, an optimistic one, but not like now. And if I had brought that in to my career earlier, I think I could have done other things, or maybe I would have gone in a different direction. Um, I mean, not that I mean, I enjoy Wall Street, but I think now there are many things I could have done. Maybe not better, but just other options. I feel that channeling your inner self, uh, and And if you think you threw all this at me, whoever you is, you threw all these challenges at me, not necessarily a spiritual or supernatural, but just whatever, and I'm batting these balls back. Imagine what I could have done when I had everything at my disposal, hitting back at these balls, and I wish I had had that. I mean, I didn't have that sense of purpose driving me. When I was young, uh, I partied, I did this, I did that. If I had put that same energy, a lot of people say these things, but you do what you do along the way, and you make your choices, and a lot of good comes out of those choices. But time is short, and this is the life we have to live, and I think after a near-death experience, you start thinking about legacy and you start thinking about your family and you start thinking about, what you have to pass on. And I hope, I think my children will think about my mindset to as an example of how to live their life
Yeah.
and move on. I hope so.
Yeah.
And I think writing things down will also be part of my legacy for them and for others that I've loved and have loved me. I don't mean to be saying this is the end of my life, but you start thinking differently.
Yeah, I think you live
Uh,
differently, right? You start to really live when you have a near-death experience like that. This is the thing that I read about a lot with is that when people get like a cancer diagnosis and they just start to live ferociously, it's like I just want to live every single day without having to think about what other people think or what's going on in the world. Like you are so self-driven and so motivated by this is the only time I have left. Like, what am I going to do with it? Right. And so you had that experience and you got to do that. When you go out and speak to people who are able bodied right now, living that Wall Street dream or doing these things, what is your big message to them?
The big message is that, shit happens and you need to experience what you're going through. You need to revel in it. You need to digest it and process it and live with resilience, openness, and purpose. And purpose can mean a lot of different things for different people. And it doesn't have to mean, you're going to live as a monk somewhere as an extreme. It just means purposely and strategically and thoughtfully and how you're going to have an impact
Yeah.
because it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like, what you're saying is think about your legacy. What do you want that legacy to be? And we could live this whole lifetime without even thinking about that, right? And so many people do. But your story is so powerful in that it forces all of us to think about what does living purposefully mean for me, right? Um, and leaning into our problems with what is it here to teach me or how can I grow out of this and become somebody better, right? Better than I even was, even when I was amazing. So I'm just so honored that you decided to share this story. And I'm so grateful that, you are still here to talk about, everything that you went through and had the community support and the people around you to lift you out of the darkness so that you can now continue to lift others. It truly is an honor, Ron. I'm so grateful that you were here and you shared your story. And I know it's going to inspire many, and I can't wait to share this with everybody who listens. Tell people where they can find you.
Sure. I'm on social media, so you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. I have a YouTube channel. You can put them all in the notes, but you can find me easily on LinkedIn for sure.
Beautiful. Yeah. So everybody go follow Ron on LinkedIn. I love your posts. I love how you share, the things that you still go through sometimes, and they're hard, and
They are hard.
I've heard of some of them firsthand from even the NSA experiences. And, do you feel like now you're able to take those in stride and just move past them much easier?
Was that a pun?
I know, not unintended.
Yeah, I can. You know what? Because it's funny. I've become more patient after all this because I've had to be. Every time something is not wheelchair accessible, I can't freak out because it just happens too often. And all I can do is make people aware of this. This happened. This is not accessible. This is not, and people are shocked. People genuinely are shocked that oh, I thought we were going to a school and that was going to be completely wheelchair accessible. I couldn't get on a stage when I spoke at the NSA for
Speaker, you,
Speaker
yeah.
U. And it was like, really? How can that not be? But it happens all the time. I wish people were more focused on making more of my life accessible and stop worrying about, people saying, well, can everyone stand now? Or those that are able, please stand. You
Mm,
don't need to tie yourself in knots and giving me the right language to make sure I'm not offended. Just go there and make the differences that give everybody as much of an equal chance to pursue their dreams and to pursue their lives in the best way possible. And it's not about, not rewording things just so they fit
they sound right.
everyone's
Yeah.
benchmark.
Yeah. And it's crazy that we're living in a time where you're still struggling with accessibility in places, right? I mean, it just makes me crazy when I think about it. But that's the thing, right? I mean, I did a podcast episode about why kindness is kind of like something we have to remind ourselves to have. And it really is because we've overwhelmed ourselves with so much that we don't have the capacity to be kind, first of all, to ourselves, and then to even think about what other people need, right? And if there is a ramp that I need to build, why am I not even thinking? Why isn't that the first thought I have when I'm building a space or creating a venue? Right? Like that should be the first thought, but we're so caught up in our heads about all the drama in our stories that we can't think about what someone else might need. Right? So, yeah.
I do
Yeah.
think that in the time we're in, with all the sort of toxic behavior, public behavior, political behavior, I think it makes my story resonate more powerfully because, you know, with all that noise out there, individuals have the opportunity to engage and converse in a pleasant and in a kind matter. And what used to be second nature isn't always second nature anymore. And it makes it feel oddly strange and comforting and maybe more powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so real, right? Because you're sharing your real struggles. What if you had to, change maybe three things in the world that would make it easier for you? What would you say are like three things that frustrate you the most and that you wish you could change them?
Oh, I don't know. I think we've come a long way in terms of making things accessible. Uh, but I think we sort of plateaued and we could probably do more. A lot of things are grandfathered, which I get. Um, I hate these little lifts instead of when there doesn't make sense to have an elevator. These little lifts take forever. You have a doorman or someone has to come use it and they rarely do and it's frequently broken or they don't have the key and it just makes everything take so much longer. I'd say that is one thing that frustrates me and I wish people, well, there are so many things. I'm gonna let that go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's awareness, right? So if someone's listening and they hear you say these things, I think they'll be more mindful. And that was the reason for my question. So if there's something that we can do to make your life easier, anyone who's listening, that's why I was wondering. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share there?
I hate these garbage cans that require someone to step on them to open it up.
See, I never thought of that. Yeah.
And then I have to take my fingernails and sort of try to open it. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. We have
and,
one
and I
that
see
you
them in wheelchair accessible bathrooms all the time.
really. Okay. Well, whoever's listening, and if you're in charge of any bathroom like that, talk to somebody, make the change happen, right?
It's a little thing,
It's the little
but
things. Yeah. It's always the little things in everything, right? Well, listen, this has been a wonderful conversation. It's been inspiring. It's been, you know, gratifying to hear. And I'm so grateful for everything that you have shared. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I wish you all the best in your journey ahead. And I can't wait to read that book and follow you along in this next venture of yours. So thank you.
thanks so much, Chitra. I loved it.
Oh,
Thanks for having me.
beautiful.